she kept him busy. She looked for different ways, and through her knowledge and through a lot of, she did a lot of research about the brain and everything else. She found a way to help him communicate. So she moved to California first, and now she's based in Austin. And she has Halo, helping autistic people through learning and outreach. Halo is her place, and that's where I trained. I trained down there for 2 summers. I initially went with Carrie's son, Alec, and their family took me down. And I was a little skeptical about it because I didn't know much about it. And we had tried other things, and nothing was seeming to work for him. And he screamed at school all day long unless he was watching a video. That's how they kept him calm. So the teachers needed help. You needed help. So, and I was like, oh, I gotta try to find something. So we went down, and it was nothing short of, amazing. It was really, really good. He was at first a little resistive, but not like we thought. And it was a 4-day camp, and then by the 4th day he was asking questions, answering questions. He told a story all through pointing on letterboard. So I was convinced that it was real, and came back and helped his teachers, and immediately, the day that I showed them, he was sitting at the table, he was doing academics. They didn't know how to teach him before. So this really, really changed what they did with him at school, and so now he's in high school. That was way back in elementary school. I think it was like 4th grade or something. Yeah, he's so smart.
So he started in 4th grade, huh?
Yeah. So now he's in high school, and they're doing RPM with him there, and he's really happy. He loves school. So he's doing really well. So I'm going to show you the boards and where we start. It's a teach-ask method. So what you do is you teach, and Soma never uses a book because she's got it all up in her mind. But when I do lessons, I can do some lessons without a book, but it's okay to use a book. Whether it's science, social studies, math, whatever you're doing, you can read, you can ask questions. But so I would start, and you're going to see me today. I'm going to start without a book because sometimes books are a little threatening. So I'll start without a book, and it'll just be almost like a conversation. I'm going to say something like, the sky is blue. And I'm going to write, the sky is blue. What did I say? And then I'm going to rip choices. The ripping of the paper is a prompt to let them know that a choice is coming. They're going to have to do something. So then we rip the paper, we put it down. Did I say the sky is yellow or blue? Give them the pen. Soma uses pencils. I've gone to pens because people chew the pencils and eat the lead, and I just have more success with pens, so it doesn't really matter. So you say, hopefully they're going to pick blue. If they don't, then we go back and reteach it. What did I say? Oh, what happened? See? Okay. So I'd say, what did I say? The sky is yellow or blue. And then if he picks blue, we spell blue. And I might not do spelling the first couple questions. I might just introduce it, see how you're doing. And then from there we go, to more choices. Maybe if he's doing all of 2, I increase it to 3, possibly introduce the spelling at some point. So you teach, you ask, and then you have them pick the answer, and you spell. You're going to get handouts pretty soon about this. So RPM is an academic teaching method. So schools like to hear that. There are schools near us, some will do RPM, some will not. The major reason they don't is they say there's not enough research. So then I ask Soma, is there research coming? And right now there isn't, but there's one study that's been done, but it's not a heavily researched method, which is too bad. I wish it was. But so anyway, so it's an academic teaching method that leads to communication. So we always start with lessons. It's highly recommended to have a lesson plan. When you first start, it's really, for me anyway, it was really hard to sit down and do a lesson and not have like, okay, what am I going to ask? What are my choices going to be? Because you have to, do that really quickly with the kids. Now I can do it that way. But in the beginning I had lesson plans. This is kind of what they look like. So I would write my question down. I would even write the choices down that I was going to do. I'd highlight the words. And I have that over here, and then when I'm asking a question, I turn it over because then people will say, oh, but you can see it.
Right.
So always, to make sure people aren't thinking that they're seeing the answers or, whatever. Take that part away. Let's see. You always sit on the right side of the student because it's a brain thing. You input on the right side to activate the reasoning and the language centers in the left side of the brain. And so that's the reasoning for the right side. If I have someone who isn't able to sit or is on the floor laying down, then it's nearly impossible to be on the right. I try if they're walking, because we don't make them sit in a chair. Because some people are tactically defensive to chairs or whatnot, and they can't settle themselves in a chair. So it's okay. I have a futon in my room. Some people choose to sit there. I have a table. Most people can get themselves to the table. Not everybody can stay there the whole session, or some people who can't get to the table in the beginning, they learn to go to the table. And it's just a comfort thing. So if any of your kids today can't sit at the table, don't worry about it. I'm not going to make them go to the table. I'm going to go to where they're at and see if they can spell. I have lots of people who start out standing. And I always say, it's okay. Whatever you need. Okay?
Please, Neela.
One thing that's really important is we always assume competence at their age level. So sometimes I go into schools and they're talking to them like a high school kid or, an older kid at a preschool level. They're using very few words. They're even addressing them, and they don't use pronouns like you or me. And just know that people with autism can comprehend. They know what we're saying. We found out through Alec that, and many of my other clients, they are always listening. So even if they're in a different room and you're having a conversation, I have had people say, Mom, why did you blah, blah, blah. And the parent is like, what?
We have papers that we have hidden in drawers.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that?
Yeah, because he overheard stuff and he asked questions about very kind of sensitive things at times. So know that they're always listening, they're always understanding. So when you're talking with them, assume that they understand. And when you're teaching a lesson, if you find something that they don't know, it's okay, then teach that. So start teaching, if it's a 4th grade student, start teaching at the level, and if it seems too hard, then go down. I've had so many kids come to me, and they're frustrated at school. I'm not a baby, after they're able to communicate, that this is what they say. And sometimes even I don't go, they're a lot of times higher than their age level, so they understand academics and things at a higher level, and if I'm doing something too easy, they might pinch me or hit me or something, and then I say, is this too easy? Yes. Okay, we'll do harder. So you have to you have to respect the fact that they're understanding and they're really, really, really getting it. And that's hard for a lot of people to understand if you don't know autism. A lot of teachers are having a hard time getting the fact. I had this one little guy, he started when he was 8. I've been working with him maybe a little over a year. And he came and he started spelling, and after a couple sessions he was answering questions with spelling, and his teachers kept telling the mom and dad, he doesn't know his letters. He can't do that. And they'd come back and they'd say, the teacher said he doesn't know his letters. And I said, they're wrong. They're wrong. And so since then, I have gone to the district. I did a presentation like this. We did a workshop. And they're doing RPM with him at school because they were convinced, okay, he really does know. And guess what? He's not running away anymore. He's not, he's much happier in school because they're doing things that are appropriate for him. So that's really important. I always stress that. Know how smart they are. Sometimes they're smarter than me. Oh, I can't do that kind of math. So math is not my strong suit. So, okay, so when we look at RPM, we look at learning styles a lot. So you have to decide and observe. I guess the first session, and this may change, you have to see what are the open learning channels. I have someone who comes and he closes his eyes all the time. Well, his visual channel is not open at that point. So I might still be writing things down and he might open his eyes and peek, but for the most part, his visual is kind of like, I don't want it. So he's more auditory, okay? So you gotta kind of observe and take in. Alec is very selective in his, there's visual and auditory, and I'm sure you know those are the two main learning channels. And there's kinesthetic and tactile, which are like subcategories. So there's selective, visual, selective. They're selective in each category. I'll explain that. There's selective, there's global, and then there's generalized. So selective means, like Alec, he will come in a room and he doesn't take in the whole environment to like observe what's happening. Oh, there's a meeting going on, I need to be quiet, just visually. He's coming in and he's seeing a piece of paper on the floor and he's picking up the paper and he's collecting every little piece of paper on the floor and he's throwing it in the garbage. That's selective vision. He's choosing to look at one thing in the room and to find everything, and he does that all the time. Another example of selective vision might be a child has a book or an iPad that they love, and they look at it all the time, and some people look at the numbers on the bottom of the page, and that's all they look at. And they might glance here and there, but they're selective in what they're looking at. So their attention, that visual channel is open, so hopefully I can get him to pay attention to what I'm doing. So I have to compete with his stimming on that page in the book or on that thing on the iPad. So there's selective vision. There's global vision. I have a few students who come and they walk in the room and they're more like, they're not focused on anything and their gaze is kind of just static in one area, but they're not able to look at everything again and take everything in. So they're seeing everything as a whole. They're not seeing separate, like, there's a mom here, there's a dad here. Oh, there's a toy on the floor, there's a dog here. They're just kind of walking in and not looking at anything. So that's global vision. Then there's the same for hearing. There's selective hearing, which some of my kids do. I think Alex sometimes does, where he likes to hear the same thing over and over and over on the computer. And he laughs and he laughs and he laughs and he laughs. And he's listening to the audio of certain commercials or whatever he's doing. I have another guy who comes in and he has the iPod to his ear, so very loud, but it keeps him calm. So he's selective in his hearing that way. Global hearing is a little more difficult to actually see, but it's when, described in Soma's book, when they're not differentiating the noise versus the talking versus the dog barking. It's all kind of coming at them at once and they cannot separate that. I've had people say that sometimes I walk in a room and they're spelling this, via RPM, and everything it's one big noise. And other days I walk in the room and I can separate, things like that. So
Jackie, when you describe all this, I can see my son is both. So he has the global, but on his stims he has that narrow tunnel vision. What we
right.
do. And
right.
And
you might see combinations of them. You might see the learning channels open and close. And so one thing is, it always changes. So you have to be cognizant of the fact that, okay, right now Alex humming, so he's trying to block out some of that noise, but that doesn't mean he can't listen to me and do some humming. He's amazing. He can talk as he's spelling and as I'm teaching, and he's answering all the questions. So he's making noise and all this stuff. And so one would think that his auditory channel is closed, but I think it's only partially closed. You know what I mean? So, because he can do 2 things at a time very easily. Some people can, some people have a hard time. He was having a group with a girl a little older than him.